Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us here for Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Percy, and I'll be hosting today's show. Pretty strong front brought blowing snow with whiteout conditions in some areas along the west coast today on up Seward Peninsula. And this is a webcam shot of Nome at about 10 a.m. this morning. And you can see the blizzard raging then with winds gusting 50 miles an hour. And near whiteout conditions, see the outline of an aircraft right through there. But as that front pushed through, conditions improved dramatically, and this is about a 1 p.m. shot of Nome here. You can see some blue sky up there. Winds really dropped off, and very clear conditions with good VFR. There's the aircraft there quite clearly now, windsock right there, and even an old gold digger here hanging around the horizon back in that area. And so as that front continues to push eastward, other areas will see a good improvement in conditions. And otherwise, on this hazardous weather graphic here, we've got winter storm warnings out for the lower and mid Yukon valleys up into the Koyukuk-Kobuk valleys, Shishmaref side of the Seward Peninsula, the northwest coast, and also winter storm warnings here for either heavy snow or strong winds creating blowing snow and reduced visibilities under a quarter mile, or both. And that extends right up into the Arctic Village area. Winter weather advisories out for the upper Yukon Valley. Winter weather advisories here on the north side of the Brooks Range, or through the passes there, and down into the Noatak Valley area. Also, winter weather advisory kicks into effect at 3 p.m. tonight and continues through 3 p.m. Monday morning, or I'm sorry, 3 a.m. tonight through 3 a.m. Monday morning for the Susitna Valley. 7 to 12 inches of snow possibly can fall during that time period, with maybe up to 16 inches falling some localized areas such as Hatcher Pass, for example. Otherwise, wind chill warning continues tonight and tomorrow for the northern panhandle here up around Skagway. And then the high wind warning remains out for the Juneau, Douglas, Southern Island area until 9 p.m. this evening, when winds should drop below those warning levels. Otherwise, until then, winds continue gusts 60, 75 miles per hour. Looking at the satellite imagery, you can see that outflow wind there, keeping it clear, blowing holes in the clouds here that's off the coast as they shift down to the southeast there. Otherwise, generally clear across the southeast coast and up the eastern interior. Had some pretty cold temperatures overnight last night, anywhere from 30 to 45 below zero, Northway down around 44 below, and then up toward Eagle, less than 40 below, and those cold conditions all the way out to the Arctic coast. Next front here, pushing eastward and making a lot more progress, or holding together a lot better than the first one did, which completely washed out as it moved through the upper ridge overnight last night. But that added to this moisture here in the Gulf of Alaska, otherwise no effect in the interior. And this is the one that brought the snow and blowing snow areas of blizzard conditions here from southwest interior and now spreading up into the northwest. But again, behind the front, really improving, as we saw on the Nome webcam there. And St. Lawrence Island a lot better this afternoon, a lot lighter winds, warmer temperatures, and shut off in the snow, maybe a few isolated showers. Sunshine seen, Pribilof, St. Paul, St. George, but periods of rain for the eastern Aleutian areas. And the main low centers are tracking northward into the Russian Far East, so this front will weaken, but it should hold together enough, hold together a lot better than the first one did that died last night over the interior. On the chart today, here's the area of snow and blowing snow from the northern Bristol Bay coast all the way up now, pushing in toward the Noatak Valley areas. Dry to the east and dry and still pretty chilly. Gusty winds along areas of the Alaska Range. I believe it was about 6 below zero at Delta Junction. We're seeing gusts up to about 30 miles an hour, so that kind of knocks a wind chill down there. And for isolated showers, mostly around Middleton Island, raining off the coast here of the Kenai Peninsula, but that area is going to increase tonight. Otherwise, we have rain, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians into Bristol Bay, isolated showers out west, and gusty winds, northern panhandle areas. Still seeing Little Island, gusts 82 miles an hour, had a peak wind gust there. Cape Spencer, gusts 72 miles an hour. And also 72 miles an hour reported on Rocky Island, which is, they seem to be trending down this afternoon. Definitely lighter than what they were overnight earlier today. For sure lighter than what you had last evening. And not bad though, all down to the south. Pick up some clouds down toward Dixon Entrance. For tonight, stays pretty windy over the northern panhandle, but trending down. Again, that warning should end by 9 p.m. Stays pretty breezy here over the southern southeast coast, but otherwise high pressure, dry conditions, temperatures cold, and blowing snow push into the central interior, all along the Yukon River Valley there, on up to the Brooks Range. Better conditions behind the front with a lot less snow, a lot less wind, and southerly flow. Temperatures continue to rise. Rain, Bristol Bay, a wave moving up toward Kipnook here. That's going to keep it wet and maybe a little breezy here over areas of Bristol Bay, especially the north coast. Just chance of rain, Kodiak Island. Increasing moisture now coming up to the North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula areas, and spilling into the Susitna Valley, and that'll continue, it looks like, through tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. Snow here for the Susitna Valley, northern Cook Inlet, heaviest up the valley, and lighter amounts to the east here, really breaks up over the Copper River Basin. And another wave comes up that frontal boundary. That'll increase the wind and possibly rain heavy at times on the southern side of the peninsula there during the mid and afternoon hours tomorrow. But high pressure developing here, kind of reaching back to the west. So a really nice day coming up for the Yukon Delta, Nunivak Island area, and a leftover symbol there near the Pribilofs. You'll be dry tomorrow for St. Paul and St. George. No rain, no snow, light winds. Rain, though, for the Adak-Atka area with this weak low just to your south, and a cold front may produce some light snow out toward Shemya with not much in the way of wind. And you can see a lot less isobars here on the map across the panhandle. And so winds are going to be a lot lighter there with still mostly clear skies, maybe increasing clouds over toward Elfin Cove. And for Monday, high pressure, pretty dominant over the northern interior there, so it'll be variably cloudy. Isolated leftover snow showers, bulk of the moisture moving off into the Mackenzie River Delta and Bay areas with that low center. So really pretty good all the way up to the Arctic coast. Another warm front pushing rain across Kodiak, and that'll increase the moisture again here along the North Gulf Coast as stays snowy in the Susitna Valley areas. Look for increasing clouds, definitely a lot lighter on the winds here for the Panhandle. Increasing clouds with chance of snow showers maybe around Elfin Cove, north of Sitka. Low pressure tracks up to just west of the Pribilofs, southerly winds. That means precipitation, or liquid precipitation, all the way down to sea level there with periods of rain and showers. But colder air spreading westward will bring snow levels back down toward sea level for Adak, and then showers in toward Shemya. And for lows tonight, anywhere from 25 to 35 below again, the eastern interior. Much milder here to the west and southwest. Mid-30s for your lows, Bristol Bay. Near 40 for the Alaska Peninsula, mid-30s in the Aleutians, and upper 20s, St. Lawrence Island into the Seward Peninsula area, below zero on the Arctic coast. And the Panhandle, looking at lows tonight, single numbers, maybe even a shade below zero in the less windy areas, and otherwise in the lower teens. And for your highs tomorrow, 15 to 28, about sums it up for the southeast coast. Near zero, Copper River Basin, a shade below zero here in the eastern interior. Teens, North Slope Arctic coast. Mild mid-30s here, the west central interior to near 40 in some areas, all the way back to the southwest coast. Lower 40s, Bristol Bay and Kodiak. And lows following morning, lower to mid-20s here for south central Alaska. Upper teens, the Susitna Valley, single numbers in the Tanana Valley. And southeast coast, a little milder now. Lows look like mostly in the teens, 10 to 20. Mildest along the coast, mid-30s for Kodiak, though. 20s back here in the west and along the southwest coast. 20s for St. Lawrence Island and the Seward Peninsula. And mid-30s for the Aleutians there, with mid-30s to maybe near 40 along the Alaska Peninsula. And for Monday afternoon, a little above zero now for the upper Yukon Valley there, even the east side, and in the teens for the Arctic coast. lower 30s here for the southwest interior, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta regions, upper 20s to near 30 for south central Alaska, 15 to 20 in the Tanana Valley, and 20s to mid 30s for the southeast coast, with the, of course, the warmest areas right out along the outer coastline there, but definitely a warming trend coming up.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Well, Sunday starts with a lot of IFR here, central western interior. North slope, some VFR, but back into the IFR along the central Arctic coast. Narrowing area of VFR here over the eastern interior. And the southeast coast, another VFR day. And then for tomorrow afternoon, we've got some marginal VFR creeping in toward the extreme north coast there. IFR, Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, marginal Cook Inlet, and then the Alaska Range westward. We've got IFR, and northward from Bristol, Togiak Bay, all the way up to the Brooks Range. North slope staying pretty good, and conditions improving out over the western Bering and Aleutians. And then for Monday morning, widespread IFR here over the western interior, extending all the way to the border here in the north, south of the Brooks Range, and 40-mile country hanging on to some VFR, but looks like for the Alaska Range on down to western Cook Inlet, IFR, northeast Bristol Bay, Kodiak, mostly IFR, Fogneck Island, marginal. North Gulf Coast, IFR, central eastern Aleutians, IFR, and marginal to the west. And then for the afternoon on Monday, Panhandle now seeing the deterioration of conditions actually occurring earlier in the day. IFR looks like over the north central part of the Panhandle, but staying VFR down toward Dixon Entrance and over towards Stewart, with IFR lingering here, southern Kenai Peninsula to Kodiak Island, northern Prince William Sound, and kind of hit and miss anywhere from VFR to IFR as you head north across the eastern interior. And a little bit more IFR, but the whole pattern trying to improve, but still pretty marginal or IFR-ish here in the west. And nothing but IFR, northern Bering Sea to the Bering Strait. Marginal VFR for much of the Aleutians. And for passes, Anaktuvuk tomorrow, marginal VFR. Actually, it could be IFR becoming marginal and back to the IFR again in the afternoon. But Adigan, again, marginal VFR. Midday trending toward IFR later in the day. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR becoming marginal. Looks like a little bit of an improvement in the afternoon. And rainy, same trend, IFR to start, becoming marginal, possibly VFR, but that's a little too optimistic in the afternoon. And for windy, occasionally marginal. And Isabel, go IFR for that pass. Mentasta, call it marginal. And Tanita, marginal VFR, but becoming or trending toward IFR in the western entrance. Portage, IFR. And Chilcoot and White, another VFR day coming up. For the freezing levels here, southerly flow with the ridge still holding basically here over the eastern Gulf of Alaska across the Gulf. So that southerly flow pulling 4,000 to 6,000 feet here, right up to Shelikof Strait, northeast Bristol Bay, 2,000 feet there into Kamishak Bay. Otherwise, at the surface here, north of the Pribilofs and along the North Gulf Coast, but that cold offshore flow still keeping it well to the south and southwest of the Panhandle. Icing considerable, or areas of considerable moderate here across the northern interior, lighter though for the Seward Peninsula and over toward the border, and maybe some isolated areas of considerable moderate rime icing, mainly in the orange shaded areas here of the south central Alaska, North Gulf Coast, another zone here near the Alaska Peninsula. And for the jet stream, ridging here continuing, we've got some disturbances working up the western side there. This one will come over the top, and then the ridge will rebound a little bit, and then the next one will come in. And for 9,000 feet, good southwest flow, 25 to 35 knots into the interior, 45 knots out of the South Alaska Peninsula, 40 knots out of the South and the Central Aleutians, and still pretty breezy here over the southeast coast, but beginning to come down and trend down, but they won't end altogether. You can see lighter winds here at 3,000 feet, strongest along the coast now, 25 to 30 there, but much lighter under high pressure into Canada. Southwesterlies, 15 to 30 knots here into the interior, and 30 knots for Kodiak Island. And then a narrow band of 40-knot winds with this system coming across the central Aleutians. Otherwise, not too bad there, 30 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. Turbulence-wise, pretty smooth here in the east, and then moderate chop here, especially for small aircraft. Alaska Range, Kuskokwim Valley, down into Bristol Bay, most of Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula, and then with those southerlies here, moderate chop for the Adak-Atka area, moderate chop also from the Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait up to the northwest coast, and holding on but diminishing over the southern panhandle. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NexRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NexRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute. So it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers a potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time and current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We just launched the mPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to today's sea ice analysis. Ice retreating back to the north here with those southerly winds. Still a little bit around St. Matthew Island there on that northwest coast, but beginning to retreat back, and the trend is possible shore fast here. Southern Norton Sound could possibly pull off the coast there, and maybe even along the north coast of the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, general retreat northward over the next 4 or 5 days. And for the coastal water forecasts, anywhere from east to north, but light on the north coast there at 10 knots. South coast, northerlies 15 to 20, 9 to 10 foot seas, northeast 20 for Clarence Strait. Still some gale force gusts for Stevens Passage, otherwise north at 20, and lighter winds for Lynn Canal, north winds at 30. Outlook for Monday, those really come down, 10 knots now. Light winds inside water areas from the some kind of a northerly component to the wind there. West 15 along the coast, north 15 on the south coast, south 15 on the north coast. And for Cook Inlet, north 15 knots, east 20 for Prince William Sound, 3 foot seas, south 20 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast, turning southeast here as you move west at 20 knots. Barren Islands, south at 20. Kamishak Bay, southeast 30 knots, 7 foot seas, and small craft advisories for southern Cook Inlet for northeast winds, 25 knots. That continues into Monday as well, northeast 25, north 15 for northern Cook Inlet, and east at 30 knots for Kamishak Bay with 8 foot seas, south 25 for the Barren Islands, and easterlies at 20 for the western North Gulf Coast, and then those turn southerly there as you head east into the eastern zone, and Prince William Sound, east winds 20 knots, seas 3 feet. Kodiak Island, south winds 20 knots, seas 5 to 9 feet, and small craft advisories here on the southern coast of the Alaska Peninsula from Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, 25 to 30 knot winds, east 15, much lighter on the Bering Sea side there, and then Bristol Bay, south 25 with seas at 7 feet. And then for Monday, south 30 knots now, so winds coming back up there for the Alaska Peninsula with areas from Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape, southwest 25, and then from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, south 30 knots, and southwest 25 on the east side of Kodiak Island, and south 25 for Shelikof Strait. Fox Islands tomorrow, east-southeast, 15 to 25 knots, seas running 9 to 16 feet. Central Aleutians, southeast 30, 9 to 17 foot seas. And then south-southeast, 25 to 30 for the western Aleutians. And then for Monday, they'll swing around. Northwest coming down to 20 knots out west there, 30 knots from Kiska over toward Adak, and then southwest 40 for the Adak-Atka zone, with full gales pushing in toward Unmac Island, and also on Alaska Island, southwest 35 to 40 knots, seas up a little over 20 feet. And for the southwest coast, southwest 20 tomorrow, 25 knots, same direction St. Matthew Island, 15 for the Pribilof, south 20 for St. Lawrence Island, east 20 for Norton Sound. Those pick up the following day. Brisk wind advisories, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, right on down to the north side of Nunivak Island, small craft advisories. South of Nunivak Island, 25 knot winds. South, 45 knots there, that low center coming up to your west over the Pribilofs, and east 30 for St. Matthew Island. And light winds on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, south to southwest 10 to 15, picking up to 20 knots in the central coast. Brisk wind advisories on the west side with gales from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, south 35, and then brisk wind advisories for southeast at 30 on down to Wales. And then for the next day, a lot lighter winds here now coming up for Monday, Monday, not Wednesday. South winds 15 knots, turn southwest and then westerly here for the central and west coast, and then start to pick up a little bit there, but not too strong, west 15 to 20 on the east side. For tonight, winter storm warnings out for the Yukon River Valley areas up into Tanana and the Kobuk-Koyukuk valleys, southern slopes of the Berks Range for snow and blowing snow. Fairly good amounts. Wind weather advisory for the Susitna Valley, 3 a.m. tonight through tomorrow and tomorrow night for 7 to 12 inches of snow. Otherwise, rain, Bristol Bay, chance of rain, Kodiak Island, increasing moisture along the North Gulf Coast, less wind in the Panhandle, but dry through tomorrow. Look for an increase in the clouds here on the North Coast. That's about it, but the wind's really coming down. And snow, central interior, lighter in the east. Snow continues here, Susitna, Matanuska Valley. And then for Monday, more rain coming northward here across Kodiak Island into Bristol Bay, making a mix along the North Gulf Coast. Dry with light winds over the interior and increasing clouds for the southeast coast with temperatures gradually rising.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.